Okay, it started now. Okay, and these lab hours will be available on this link. Okay, I hope somebody is making note of those links, and you guys have access to the channel and you are able to see the videos. Okay, so now going back to the class, now we have certain practice exercises that we had left out. Okay, so we have practice for data structures and we have practice for control flow. Okay, so let us start with the practice exercises that we had left out in the control flow. Okay, so somebody had asked me in the morning that you required the questions to be shared with you, right, for the different just a second, guys. I think oh, okay, I searched it on another machine. Please give me a moment, guys. Okay, geeks. Okay, I was trying to log in from Meet from another place so that I must be able to send you this link. But I searched it and figured out the link. Okay, so if you go to this particular page, right, this is a Geeks for Geeks page where it has a lot of questions regarding the Python practice questions. Okay, so I'm giving it to you as an additional resource. Okay, now going back to the control flow questions. Okay, so if you are using Python 2, right, you must use a row input and you must use from future import print function. Okay, if you are going to use say Python 2 instead of Python 3. Okay, now this is a very simple exercise. Okay, ask the user to enter an integer. If the number is positive, print positive. If the number is negative, print say -10, print negative of 10. If the number is 0, print 0. Finally, print done. This is the question. So I will give you some instructions regarding how you must complete your lab record, etc., and how you must submit your lab submissions. Okay. Okay, so we need you need to submit PDF in the on Moodle for labs. Okay, you need the code and then the screenshot of the output. Okay, so it will be let's say one submission, let's say lab 1 submission, let's say this contains, let's say 2 questions, okay, labs containing 2 questions. Okay, so you will first write the question here, okay, question, then you will give the code, then you will give the screen output, okay, which will be the screenshots, okay, and then you will finally go and write the second question, write the question, code, output, okay. So this is how you will submit. So you need to submit PDF documents. Is that clear, students?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now I will show you one more thing. Okay, so this is going to be your first question, okay, which I am going to share it over here. So that is in the third, so that is in the control flow. Okay, where it will be in the problem, it is the problem 1.1 Armstrong number, then problem 1.2, that's the collapse sequence, okay, and then so here we have problem 1 and 2.1 and 2.2, right? So you have to do the problem 2.1 and 2.2, and that is given in the data structures part, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and apart from that, so that will be your first 4 submissions together in one PDF, okay. So problem 1.1, 1.2, 2.1 and 2.2. Now these questions we have already discussed in the class. You know the answers, you have seen the answers in my discussions, so you can very easily get those answers. These are pretty simple, okay. Now going back, I think we are done with core data structures. Okay, now let us go through the exercises in the control flow. So I am going to show you one by one, okay, the questions. So this is a very simple question. So this is also something that you can do, okay. So I am going to write it down in oh, okay, I don't need to do that. I think yeah, so I think you should note it down, okay. This is in the slide number 04, practice control flow questions only, and that is available in your slides folder, okay. 04 practice control flow questions only, okay. And in the slide number 3 you have simple if. So this is another program that you need to do, students.
Yes.
Okay, all of you, this is another program that you need to do, okay, which is ask the user to enter an integer. If the number is positive, print positive. If the number is negative, say minus 10, print negative of 10. If the number is 0, you have to print 0. Finally you have to print done, I'm not going to discuss the answer here. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but this is one of the question that you have to do. Now another question. You can ask the user to enter two numbers x and y, and if x is larger than y, print first, store the value of x in the variable highest. If y is larger than x, print second, store the value of y in the highest. If they are equal, print same, store either as the highest and print the square of the highest. So this is the question 2. So you need to have the code as well as the output screenshot. Okay. So that is first exercise, simple if, then simple if 2. Are these simple enough for you guys to do it? Do you guys need any discussion about these questions? I'm going to okay, you can split the problem 1.1, 1.2, 2.1 and 2.2 into one lab exercise, and the other control flow into another one. Okay. Is it clear, students?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll just show you that. Okay, so this is going to be your lab 2. Okay, and lab 1 is going to be the 04 control flow practice. Okay. Now that's the second question. Next question is you can use this, you can do this. This is another problem that you can do. Use a while loop to print the numbers 1 to 10. Okay. Next is use a while loop to print odd numbers from 1 to 10. So here, right, you have a loop, you have a variable, okay, and you have to print the values. Here you will have a loop, a variable and a condition if required. You can do it without the condition as well. Okay. And next question is so you will generate the numbers 1 to 10 in a while loop, and if the number is divisible by 3, you have to print 3 stars. If the number is divisible by 5, you have to print 5 stars. Otherwise, you will just print the number. Okay. So that is another problem. Next is use a while loop to generate the numbers 10 to 1. Okay. So that's in the reverse order. For each number, print that many star characters or asterisk characters. That is, if the number is 1, you have to print 1 asterisk. If the number is 3, print 3 asterisks, etc. Okay. And so these questions are already available to you. Okay. And next question is simple while loop. Ask the user to enter an integer n is greater than or equal to 2. Okay. So user has to enter a value which is greater than or equal to 2. Use a while loop to print n numbers uniformly spaced between 0 and 1. Okay. Include both 0 and 1. For example, if the user entered 3, you have to print 0.0, 0.5 and 1.0. If the user entered 2, we will print 0.0 and 1.0. Okay. Is that okay, students? So we have some exercises on if and then while Okay, and now we will go into for loops. So ask the user for an integer, use a for loop. Okay, so earlier question used a while loop. Okay, so that is very important, because when you use a for loop, you don't have to necessarily do the value manipulations or anything in the loop manually. Okay, so here in this for loop question, ask the user for an integer, use a for loop to generate the multiplication table for the number up to 10 for that number. Okay, so if the user entered 5, print the following: 5 into 1, 5 into 2, 5 into 3, etc. Next is we can go for a for loop Fibonacci series. Ask the user to enter an integer n which is greater than or equal to 1. Print the first n numbers of the Fibonacci sequence. Okay, so this is also something that we have already discussed. Another question is for loop over list 1. Ask the user for an integer n, use the range to create numbers 1 to n, print each value in this in a separate line. For example, let us say the user enters 3, print 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you have to ask the user to input an integer, and then you have to create 1 to n and then just print it. Another question is, this one is something that we haven't discussed, so you can actually leave it, or else let me just show you that. Okay, so let me always I type IPython 3, right? So this PyLab, right, is going to give you the NumPy and the SciPy environments, everything. So if I just type linspace, right, it imports the linspace automatically. So linspace of 1, 5, 100. Okay. So what I entered was I invoked a function called linspace, which stands for linearly spaced. Okay, or linear spacing. So linear spacing for the number starting from 1 to 5, and I want 100 such numbers. Okay, so 1 to 5, and if you look at the length of how many numbers have been generated, it has created 100 numbers. Okay, so if you don't use it with PyLab, right, then how do you import it in Python? Let's say linspace, right? So there's a package called NumPy. So what I'm going to do is import NumPy. Okay, I can do it that way, and then I can use numpy.linspace of 1, 5, 100. Okay, so numpy.linspace 1, 5, 100 %hist minus n. Okay, so these are the two lines that I had to use for using linspace in NumPy. I can also do it in another way, import NumPy as NP. Okay, so I am going to call NumPy as NP in my program. So np.linspace 1, 5, 100. Okay, and you can take a look at what is the type. It's a numpy.nd array. Okay, so if you want, you can use numpy's linspace to create endpoints from 1 to 2, print each value in a separate line. For example, let's say user enters 3, print 1.0, 1.5 and 2.0. Okay, next is for loop over a list. Okay, so ask the user to enter a list of fruits separated by comma. Print each fruit in a separate line. For example, let us say user enters apple, pear, you have to print apple and pear in the next line. Is that okay, students? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we have few more questions. Now ask the user to enter a string, print each character of the string using a for loop. For example, if the user enters the string box, you have to print B in one line, next line O, next line X. Okay. Next is nested for loops. Let us say the user supplies an integer n, print an n by n matrix where each entry is a sum of the row plus column. For example, let us say the user enters 3, we have to print 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4. Is that clear? So, which means that it this location, right, it is 0, 0. So, 0, 0 plus 0 is 0, and this location is 0, 1. So, 0 plus 1 is 1, and this location is
Yes, sir.
0, 2.
Multi-dimensional array.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. So, it is a you can think of it as a n by n matrix, and you have to do a you have to create a matrix like this and then print the values for whatever value the user enters. So, if the user enters n, you have to do an n by n matrix, or if the user enters 5, you have to do a 5 by 5 matrix and then generate the elements like this. Next is Fibonacci divisible by 4. So, find the first number in the Fibonacci sequence divisible by 4, but which is greater than 8 and less than 500. Okay, so that is another question. Find the first number in the Fibonacci sequence divisible by 4, but greater than 8 and less than 500. Okay. Those are the questions from the control flow. Okay, students?
Yes.
Okay. Now we have more questions from the data structures. Okay. So that is the slide number 06, I think, yeah, 06 practice questions. So this is something that is there in all the slides, so I'm not going to describe again. This is when you are using Python 2 instead of Python 3, okay, you have to do it this way. And some exercises. First one is a simple list creation. So ask the user to enter an integer n. Create a list of integers from 0 to n minus 1, and you have to print the list. You can do it in 2 lines, right? If you want, or else if you want, you can do it in more number of lines as well. But 2 lines of doing it in 2 lines would be more easier. Okay.
Yes.
Next is more list creation. Ask the user to enter an integer n. Store the square of all the odd numbers less than n in a list and print this list. Okay, students? So there is a Pythonic way here, right? For example, when we used to do it in C or C++, we did the if condition, divisibility, etc. While here you don't need to do that essentially, because you have the range function, etc. Okay, just giving you a quick reminder. Next is tuple creation. So ask the user to enter an integer n, store the square of all the odd numbers less than n, and print a tuple of this list. So here if you want to convert a string to a list or a tuple, you can do it this way. Okay. And next exercise, list of Fibonacci. Ask the user to enter an integer n which is greater than or equal to 1. Store the first n numbers of the Fibonacci series in a list. Okay, and then you have to print the list. Next is square a list of integers. Ask the user to enter a list of integers separated by spaces. Convert this into a list of integers but square each element. So you have to ask the user to enter the list of integers separated by spaces. Convert this into a list of integers but square each element. Print this list. For example, if the user enters 1, 2, 3, 4, you have to print 1, 4, 9, 16. Okay, students?
Yes, sir.
Next question, list of tuples. Ask the user to enter a list of integers separated by spaces. Convert this list into a list of integers but square each element. Store the integer and its square in a tuple. Put this into a list. Print the list. So, for example, if the user enters 1, 2, 3, 4, you have to print 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, 4, 16. So, here you have a list of tuples and each tuple is the number and the square of that number. Correct? So, this is what you have to print at the end. Okay, students?
Yes.
Okay. So, how do you iterate over the list of tuples? If you want to, you can do it this way. Say if you have data is equal to 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, 4, 16, you can do for x comma y in data, print x comma y. Okay. Now, ask the user to enter a string. Convert this into a list of characters. Sort this list in ascending order. Now eliminate any repeated values in this list. For example, print the list. If the user enters hello, you have to print EHLO. Okay. Is it becoming easier or is it becoming more and more difficult?
Yes,
How many
sir,
of you think that it's getting difficult?
No, sir. This type of question we did in today's class only about that printing the means eliminating the repeated values.
Correct. But that was with numbers, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, you can. Yeah, definitely. I think you gave the hint also to the students regarding what is to be done. Anyway, so this is list methods where you have to ask a user to enter a string, convert the string into a list of characters, sort it into ascending order, eliminate any repeated values, and you have to print the list. Next question is simple dictionaries. So, ask the user for a list of integers separated by spaces. Okay. So, the user is going to enter a list of integers separated by spaces. So, what it would mean is I would enter, let us say 5 space 6 space 7 space 19 space 20 space 20 space 2 space 21 space, something like that, right, when the user enters the string, enters the numbers. For each integer, store the string version as the key and the square of the integer value as the value in the dictionary. Okay, which means that printing the resulting dictionary, and finally you have to print the resulting dictionary. For example, if the user enters 135, you have to print 1, which is a string and its square is 1, and 3, which is a string, and 9 is the square of the number 3, 5 as a string, and 25 as the square of 5. Okay. Next is mapping using dictionaries. So, we have already done this in the class day before yesterday, if you guys remember. So, create a mapping from three character month name to month number. For example, Jan 1, December 12. Ask the user for a 3-character month code, lower or upper or mixed. Print the month number corresponding to the month the user entered. So this is something that we have already done. If you guys, so let's say problem. Oh, I think.
Yes, sir. The date, month, and year problem.
Yes. Correct. So this is something that we have already done yesterday. The date, month, and year problem that Abhishek just mentioned. Okay. So this is another question, and we can also have something called. I'm going to tell you about the new function called enumerate. Okay. So enumerate meaning that, let's say I have a list called a list, okay, with values 5, 6, 7, 8, and enumerate al. Okay, it gives me an enumerator, okay, meaning that I can actually do something like for I comma or for count comma value in enumerate al, okay, and then I can do print count comma value. Okay, so you can see that the enumeration starts from 0, okay, and you can actually count the elements, and you can actually have some indexes to the elements or some position numbers also to the elements, and that is what you call as enumerate. I can also enumerate and start to have values from 1 if I want. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I can have it values starting from 1. So earlier when I did not pass any value, it started enumerating from 0. Okay, and I can also enumerate it to have values, any values. Say for example, it can have values from 100. Okay, so 105, 116, 102, 7, 103, 8. Okay, so enumerate question mark, return an enumerate object, iterable, an object supporting iteration. The enumerate object yields pairs containing a count from start which defaults to 0 and a value yielded by the iterable argument. Okay, so enumerate is useful for obtaining an index list like 0, sequence of 0, 1, sequence of 1, 2, sequence of 2, etc. And you can specify the start to be a different value other than 0. Is that clear, students? This enumerate or absolutely no idea? So enumerate is just a function, okay. So we can do for I comma char in enumerate hello, okay, print I comma char. Okay, so you can actually count the elements in this particular list or string and have it 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. So that's what enumerate does. Is that okay, students? Is it clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We have only 28 students present in this class. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at what we can do with enumerate. Okay, so if you have the months like this as a string dot split, then we have the months. We have an empty dictionary month to for I comma month in enumerate months. Month to of month is equal to I plus 1. Okay, so here instead of creating a dictionary like this, right, here we have the keys and using these keys we are creating a dictionary inside the program called month to mm. Okay, so month to mm will have the keys Jan, Feb, Mar, April, May, June, July, Jul, Aug, Sep, Oct, Now and Dec. Okay, so you will have month to mm Jan having the value I plus 1 and I is going to be 0 because in the enumerate we have given it no value.